Hey guys, Indy here, and I'm going to address RPG A Day 13, describe a game experience that changed how you play. This is a really difficult question for me, in part because I feel like I haven't changed. 20 some years, haven't changed that much, which, if that was true, would not be a really good thing, I don't think. I think one should grow and learn, and that's not to say that um, there's always better in front of you. I don't believe that. Sometimes you're right where you ought to be, and change is no longer needed. Um, but I mean, to start and not need to grow, no, that's not probably likely. But but to be more realistic, the fact is I probably have grown and I have changed, and I just don't know. I can't identify for myself how that has been. That's that makes more sense. But so I don't know if this is the biggest thing. And I commented somewhere before that I think I change more from looking at the patterns, right? Like I'm a person who remembers why things happened in history, not the date in which they say it happened. I see it. I kind of already think of it as more of a flow. But I think one of the single experiences that has changed how I played the most. I was GMing probably my second. I think I was GMing my second or Rollmaster 2 group. Uh, one of the players had a really interesting character with long-ranging goals that I really wanted to see dealt with. Like in my setting that I built for Rollmaster, there are six, I think, noble dwarven houses that all have their own provinces, but there was a seventh, and they had fallen at some time in the past. And he said, I want to be royalty. How about I be royalty from that? And he was like, yeah, that's great. Um, so his personal goal was to get enough experience as an adventurer, basically. Like he wanted to have real world combat experience and develop followers and go try to retake his birthright. Now, granted, uh, it was his birthright. Don't get me wrong. It's just that he was very well removed from the family line. It's just that no one else was really surviving. Anyways, um, so I really wanted to see that happen. And obviously he wasn't the only person in the group, though he was the person in the group with the most well-defined character arc and character goals. Anyways, I give them an encounter with some orcs, and it's a really strong party, and they all have like two-handed weapons, and they're coming charging downhill, and the first attack hits this guy who was a berserker as well, so defenses, he didn't really care for them, and cut off his hand. The bleeding was going to kill him in 12 rounds. The party didn't really have a proper healer, which now I don't really worry about that so much from a magic perspective, because I also understand that actually healing magic in Rollmaster is pretty darn weak. It's really just there to kind of tide you over until someone else can get there. Until you get to the really high levels where you do things that normal medicine can't do, like healing regrow your arm or something. Um, but we didn't have a really good strong magic healer. And the one person who had picked up some healing spells that we did have was in the second row right behind him and got stunned for multiple rounds because he didn't really defend, and he really didn't consider the fact that while he was playing a kind of militant character, he wasn't really up to snuff to take on these kind of targets face to face. To make this short story, or this long story shorter, uh, basically had a team wipe. We didn't roll out the whole combat. One or two party members might have gotten away. I narrated the end of as being this one character managing to run away. But that did really impact me. I'm still trying to figure out if I what my percentages, if you will, my proportions of world first intention, story first intention, and character first intention. I'm still trying to figure out where I am in there. I'm pretty sure that my story first intention is pretty darn low. I need to go back and rewatch Runeslinger's video where he's talking about intention and try to understand player first intention again, because I couldn't quite figure that out, because I kind of confused myself thinking, well, if the player is interested in character first intentions, doesn't that really mean that he's character first, that I want to run the game to incorporate his needs as, or his desires as character first intentions? Whatever, confused. But losing such a promising character, such a promising character story arc really hit me. And I think for a long time, to today, for Rolemaster, I pull my punches a little bit. I start worrying about, like, well, do I want to house rule in some, some like fate points to avoid death, or do I want to make sure that they're going up against weaker enemies? Like, I don't think until the last couple months of play for that last Rolemaster U campaign I had, and I'm not sure that the characters were ever really actually challenged by their opponents. Now, still, if you go back and watch last year's RPG A Day, I retell the story of killing my wife's first ever PC. That was an open-ended roll that, of course, ended in a strong critical, which killed her. So, putting them up against lesser enemies don't save them in Rolemaster. But it definitely affected how I tried to GM. It affected how I scaled my encounters. Because if someone comes up, if everyone has really boring character concepts, then I don't really care if your characters die, and two, I may not even care to play. But if you do have really interesting character concepts, I'd really like to see them get some distance on them. And maybe they do end in your character death before you finish them. But I'd like to see more of a story. And I think maybe the problem with that was that I was leveling and advancing my players too slowly, or giving them pieces that would advance their personal storyline too slow. So I guess actually I can come back and talk about this again. One, I became a little gun shy, but two, I learned to get a little bit more focused. I didn't learn how to do it well until a couple years ago, or at least better, on when a player has a character goal, working that into the game, like actually making sure that stuff happens and stuff moves, and it's just not random that, 9 months later I think, oh, this is be an interesting place to plug in this person's character story. Anyways, I'm sorry this has gone on too long, partially because I ad-libbed this whole thing, so I actually thought of new things as I went along. So if you stuck with me, tons of thanks to you. Can I give you a like for sticking with me? Like, subscribe if you like this stuff. Go find other RPGers who are putting out RPG A Day stuff and see what they've got to say.